everyone. This is Professor Alan Barrell, and I'm speaking to you from Cambridge, from my office. And I do have some nice stories to tell you about real people. And as you watch and listen, please do take note of how the entrepreneurs that we're discussing have developed clear plans about their social enterprises, how they have planned step by step, and how mentors and advisors have helped them and have been engaged with them. And also, please take good note of how they have prepared very clear and compelling presentations to promote their plans and find finance. Because if you yourself do form a social enterprise, these will be things of importance to you. So we have three real life stories for a bit later. But first of all, some headlines to make sure we understand what we all mean by social enterprise and what are the definitions and the motivation behind them, and what kinds of companies can be a social enterprise. Ordinary companies, charities. I want to talk a little bit about the differences that there are. And we can look at the options on the legal structures if you're going to form a social enterprise. And we will look in particular at the special nature and advantages of community interest companies, which you can form in the UK and something similar elsewhere. And I will have something to say about the trends that are going on in the investment community, which is very encouraging because they are much more inclined these days to invest in social enterprises. And we're going to talk about impact investing. So the three examples, there'll be one at a very early stage, another that is formed and launching, and then one that has been going for a few years. But let's start with a simple definition. What is, or what do I mean at least, by a social enterprise? And here you can read the words: a business that trades intentionally to tackle social problems, communities, aspects of the way people live, training. There are many reasons for having a social enterprise, but they're formed not just to take out profit. They do generally generate surpluses of cash because obviously they have to be financially sustainable. But that money is used in the furtherance of the social enterprise. I want to tell you, though, that beyond this textbook definition, in my own experience, the social entrepreneurs who I work with are all very passionate about why they're doing what they do. They're single-minded in their dedication to succeed. They are very exciting when you study their motivation and how they get other people to work with them. And they're also very able to encourage investors to give them money to get going. Now, we can start with a quite famous exemplar, someone who is a famous social entrepreneur. This is Mother Teresa, who gave her life to work with sick women in India. But, you know, she had to form an organization, she had to have premises, she had to recruit a team of people, and she had to raise money. So don't think for a moment that there is anything soft or easy about founding and sustaining a social enterprise. And let's just spend a short time clarifying the types of companies, and I'm based here in the UK, so these are UK examples, but they're pretty well the same all over the world, certainly the developed world. A limited company, a simple company with shareholders that can share profits and draw dividends and will have directors. And then there's a different kind of company, which we call a company limited by guarantee. It's a not-for-profit company with members, not shareholders. And the surpluses of money are retained. They're not taken out, they're reinvested. It could have directors. A charity is something different. It's governed by a different regulatory system, the charity commissioners, and no profits are taken out. It often exists on philanthropic money and grants, and not equity at all. It has trustees and not directors. It doesn't pay any tax. It's not so easy to set up as a company of the normal kind. And the community interest company, which is a very special form of non-charitable limited company, which exists primarily for social reasons, to benefit the community or a social purpose, rather than making a profit. And CICs, as we call them for short, have really been very successful in the UK, and lots of entrepreneurs starting up social enterprises use this format. Now, here's a picture of a very interesting innovation centre in Cambridge. It's called the Future Business Centre, and it is the home of social enterprises. Many CICs form here as startups, and this innovation centre only caters for social enterprises. And we can just look at a few of the advantages of these community interest companies that exist there. They do have a clear commitment to social goals. Their funds invest in social impact objectives. They are limited liability companies, so the directors are protected. They have a continuity of purpose. It's very clear what they're doing over time. They go on and on. They're quicker to set up than a charity, and they're less onerous for regulatory purposes, and they have a much wider scope of purpose than the rules for charities. Now, Alia is a company in the UK which is an example of an innovative social impact investment company. And that gives me the chance to say something about impact investing. And all we're showing in the picture here is that there's a balance in impact investing between the shareholders getting a return on their money, but social impact being measured as well. So it's not all for profit, it's for social reasons too. And in recent years, we have seen in the whole of the investment community shifting patterns in investment, with the focus on the mentality of social interest very, very strong. We call it impact investing. And I think impact, in a way, is a better word than social enterprise to describe some of these companies. And if you look at this simple little diagram here, and we look at investing and why people do it, including the funds that do it, the philanthropic end is where people are putting in their money with no expectation of any financial return. And at the other end, you've got people who only want a financial return. And what we see with impact investing, which is still imperfect, it isn't yet very well connected, but we see entrepreneurs getting involved and moving the focus of investing, not all from the philanthropic end, not all from the private capital end, but towards the center. Now, this statement about the lack of networks of knowledge and capital supply being fragmented was made a few years ago, and there has been quite a lot of progress. And here's a good definition for you up at the top here. Impact investing is an investment approach that intentionally seeks to create both financial return and positive social or environmental impact that is actively measured. And that's a very good definition. Don't worry too much about the detail on some of these slides. You will get them and you can come back and study after you've heard what I have to say. So the language and philosophies of impact investing are very, very important now, and they're part of the investment scene. And we see these words wherever we go. PPP, people, planet, profit. SRI, social responsible investment. The triple bottom line, showing social, financial, and environmental impact. And ESG, environmental, social governance. So we can move on now to our three case examples, having just said a little bit about what social enterprise companies might be. And our first case example is about sub-Saharan Africa. And this slide may shock you. It should shock us all when we look at it. But three young University of Portsmouth undergraduates are taking some actions in this field with a passion to bring change. And this is a concept and first phase plan. It's not yet 6 months old. Today I received information that the company is only just registered. There are, unfortunately, in sub-Saharan Africa, more than 15 million cases of acute malnutrition. It's a massive social problem. These are terribly distressing pictures. An uncertain future. But the three young men that I'm working with have a plan to bring relief, to get a lot of support to do so. And what they plan to do is, having formed this company, their social enterprise, they're going to gather lots of support and they're going to use proven methods to take food to the people through business partnerships. Fresh, healthy, affordable food, and they're calling their company Farm in Motion. Now, they're going to use a very interesting approach to cultivate the food. It's called aquaponics, and some of you will have heard of it. You have fish in a tank, which are fish that can eventually be eaten, but the waste that they produce goes down below and fertilizes plants that are growing, and the plants themselves actually filter the water and return it in a fresh form to the fish. So it's a very, very interesting form of agriculture. It's quite widely used in some parts of the world, in Asia in particular, in urban farming. And it is proven. So these young men are not going to try and need to find something new technology. It's happening. And they plan to start a central farm with cultivation tanks, and they will use transport tanks to move the living fish and the growing plants once they're established from the farm with a vehicle like this one, and they will be moving things towards those that need the food. So that they can arrive at the food market and combine with local market partners to sell to the public. And this is their plan. And here's part of Africa. And what they're seeking to do is they're going to start off in Sierra Leone, which one of them knows very well. And they have ambitious intentions, once they get going with their business, to move outward step by step, and to find a way, working with local farmers and distributors, to bring all these things to people who today don't have much to eat. And there they are. One of them is from Nigeria, Ovi. Jack is in the UK, and Ram is in the Middle East at the moment. Now, they're taking actions, and their next steps, and I'm working with them, include the need to gain high-level expert support from agriculturalists, farmers and others, and they're also going to look for those in government, not only here in the UK but in Africa, who will lend support in order that they can find the money to start all of this off, because of course there are big funding requirements needed here. And they have some challenges. They don't have any direct farming experience. They don't have all that much time and resource, but the timing of what they're doing is right, in my view, to make it. They want to hope with Unido, Untitled farmers, and they can seek access to African farmland. So that is a real, just set up company, an early stage social enterprise. And now we move on to a young lady, Mariam Macramala, who did her PhD in Cambridge and who I'm working with, based in Cairo. And she, as a graduate engineer, has become passionate about education. And she really wants to make a difference to the quality of the education system in her country of Egypt. And she's done 3 years research for her PhD on this, and she's turning that research into a social enterprise. And we've just started to run a UK-centered community interest company. While you look at the next pictures, just see how well she sets out aspects of the market, the needs, and what she plans to do. It's a very interesting presentation. And I just want you to know that these are not my presentations. These presentations have been produced by the students. Our company is going to be Renewed Mind Limited. It's registered. The Egyptian educational context of all this is of a highly centralized, highly controlled this where local people don't get too much to say. There's a public sector and a private sector, and there are international schools as well. And what Mariam sees as the problem is that there's a very big gap in local ownership of educational reform initiatives. There is not the contextuality locally that we all know in education there needs to be, because each community is different. There are 91 million people in Egypt, and where they live determines the way people think. And what Mariam is proposing, that through on-site teaching and learning excellence centers that she will set up, there will be capacity built for changing things. There'll be partnership to begin with the international school and then with other schools, local training for teams. And at a glance, the value proposition is, as I said, contextualized education, underpinned by Mariam's research for long-term change. And of course, we have to generate revenue teams. Some will have to pay for what Mariam plans to do, and part of it will be paid by the government. And we believe the timing is right because the Egyptian government has placed a big, big emphasis on the need for educational development and reform. And it's very much in view of that we're proceeding with this company. So to enable a long-lasting mentality shift in society about education, and with a mission to build the missing bridge between the academic center, the schooling enterprise, and the people in school, the teachers, and the government. It's a very ambitious plan. And the core values will be all about contextualization, inclusivity, but it will be research-based. And the model is going to go beyond the consultancy, which is where it started, because that's what we have to do to begin with, to get other people involved. But there will be set up a center for teaching and learning excellence. Just the pictures here showing what that will be, in a partnership with an international school, and very, very interesting recruits, trained staff who will be brought in. And the model of this already exists in the higher education sector. So Mariam is not going to be preaching only entirely new things. We've now set up an advisory board. We've got amazing academics. We've got the head of the Faculty of Education in Cambridge University. We've got one of the masters of a Cambridge college and others to help us. And the vision, improved quality of formal schooling in Egypt, as we have said. Engaging educational researchers and all the other people that need to be involved in order to get it done. Through a Center for Teaching and Learning, as we said, got to gain some financial support to make it happen. But we've already got some building blocks in place that we can actually use to get started. And there's going to be a roadmap with a timetable, and these things will be included in Mariam's plan. School consultancy, we're going to teach teachers about the new approaches that we think are right. There will be educational projects, and there will be on-site teaching and learning excellence centers. Now, in the picture there, that's Mariam. She's at the front with the lady at the back, doing some planning of her business. Now, we do have some challenges. It's me and Mariam that are the team at the moment, and we're going to conduct a pilot study. We're having meetings of advisors. We're talking to the Ministry of Education. The British Embassy in Cairo are helping us a lot, and we're securing more funding and recruiting the first staff. And contracts beyond the pilot will bring us revenue to keep the thing going. So it's becoming a really interesting, moving story with real momentum. And I hope you can see just how thoroughly Mariam has put it all together. Now, the third case study is one young undergraduate. This is Georgina, who started work actually in the British Parliament after her graduation. And she was very well paid, and she had a senior job working with senior people. And she moved from that secure parliamentary job to Cambodia. and she has started a social enterprise in Cambodia. Before she went, she spent a year at the Judge Business School doing a postgraduate diploma in entrepreneurship, but she had this call to adventure. She studied a lot about Cambodia and she had strong feelings for it. And this picture here is of her first cafe. She went to Cambodia. She raised £200,000. She collected books and still collects them worldwide from people who will be prepared to donate them. So that within the cafes, books are also distributed because books are not that easy to come by in Cambodia. And she's now started an entrepreneur education center as well. Now, money, of course, was essential for the vision to become reality, and the enterprise is self-sustaining. It is creating a surplus that is being reinvested now for the future. Just a little bit more to show you how she had to plan and implement to make this happen. As it says in the slide, an audacious but achievable mission to build a chain of sustainable social enterprises that break down barriers to education and deliver change to local communities. From 5 years ago to an established business today, she's looking ahead to grow. About her story, we should reflect that Cambodia was very, very strong in her mind, having seen how from what was a wonderful country for so many years after the World War occupation fell foul of terrible things that you will have known about and read about when Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge destroyed a very, very large number of those who were educated in Cambodia itself. It was a very, very terrible time. 2.2 million people out of a population of 7 million were killed. So Georgina had a very, very strong motive to want to go back and do something, because that genocide had left Cambodia in a very, very bad situation. But travel and tourism is picking up, and Georgina thought that by forming her company, she could serve the tourists who would pay well for good food, but that would also bring new jobs, and she would also import these books for the people there. You can have a read of Georgina's biography when you take a look at the slides later. She was, as I said, working for 2 government ministers. She's a lifelong traveler. And she and I found another very, very interesting man you'll see in a moment who put in some money. And Georgina's bigger interest is all about global literacy and improving it. But the man who has really made this happen is another entrepreneur who didn't form a social enterprise. He formed pharmaceutical companies and made a significant amount of money. He's become a very, very famous bioscience entrepreneur and one of the business leaders based in Cambridge. He also loves Cambodia very much indeed, and he invested a significant amount of money, philanthropically in his case, in Georgina in order to get her started. So here's a bit of press about the Footprint Cafe. There's a picture of Darren and Georgina there. First Footprint Cafe opens in Cambodia. That's what the press story said. And look at jobs being created. Look at these happy people. There's a training scheme established as well for them. And the model is working. It has definitely started to generate some surpluses. It has, of course, been hit by the pandemic, but the pandemic has not stopped it working. And it's doing all sorts of things to enable local society to develop. And running the company, Georgina has demonstrated very, very excellent management practice. She's now recommended by TripAdvisor. She has mystery guests. There are strict internal standards, and there's quality management. She won in 2020 the Lonely Planet TripAdvisor Community Small Business Award for the top social enterprise. And your course leader has a video that you will be able to watch later on, which has been made by TripAdvisor to show what Footprints Cafe has been doing, and that's very good PR. So for future growth, we believe we have a sustainable model. I'm a trustee of the company myself. We're going to replicate what we've done in Siem Reap, where the first Footprint Cafe was founded, and we're going to go from strength to strength. And the next step is to scale up in Cambodia with a team which will be partly based in the UK, but it will work in Cambodia, and then we would like to see if this can move into Nepal and Laos, India, Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and elsewhere in Asia. It's a very ambitious plan, but there has been a good start made. This is Georgina saying, hey, the rest of the developing world is also a target, and that is very ambitious indeed. But why not be ambitious? Ambition leads to great achievements. So sustainable funding for this enterprise is now being sought. We're doing a lot of work on media, finance, industry. We're looking for people to donate. We're looking for sponsors. And the vision and plans for the future are very, very clear. It has been held back by COVID, but it's still going strong. We hope we might get some money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So those are the 3 case studies. Let's just wind up with a few summary comments. I hope our examples have helped your understanding. And here are a few final thoughts. There's a message in all of these case examples. Entrepreneurs can change the world, and they bring positive change to the lives of others. And impact is a really key word in deciding if an enterprise is truly socially focused. And the funding situation is improving so much, investors are more and more favoring social enterprises. And they can generate revenue and they can generate profits for ongoing development. But we must, and hopefully this also came through in our talk, social enterprises are no easier than other kinds of companies to establish and run. Vision and passion are found at the heart of successful social enterprises. And never forget, entrepreneurs change the world. So thank you for listening to me. It's been my great pleasure. I hope perhaps sometime in the future we may have the opportunity for me to be live with you on a discussion when I can answer some of your questions. But thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.